Hey guys, how you doing? Just got off work on my way home. Um, People keep encouraging me to expand into Instagram. So this video might be repetitive for some of you who have seen the channel a bunch, but I feel like I'm reaching out to a new audience. I don't know. Um, Today I've just been thinking like capitalism is strictly a game. It's something that's been banging around in my head today. Is like politics and government and the way we structure our societies and all of that, that's our lives and it's important to us. But if you're a capitalist, it's just a game, right? You don't actually do any work. Like, if you're a capitalist, you don't actually do any work. You don't actually know anything. You don't actually have any skills. You're not very intelligent. You don't actually read. All you do is take the money that you were given because you were born into the correct family, uh, and play this little game called capitalism, right? Like, you look at something like the stock market, and the stock market is basically just this casino, right? The stock market ends up just being a casino where capitalists go to gamble and see who can be the best capitalist. And that really is just kind of what the game they're playing is, like who can be the best capitalist. Meanwhile, the rest of us are living with the repercussions of these decisions that these, rapacious sociopaths, obviously, are making, right? And I'd like to be really clear. Like, I call capitalists sociopaths, and they are, by definition, they're sociopathic, because they've attained such a high level of wealth that they lack the ability to have empathy. They can't, they genuinely cannot understand what it is like to be a worker, because they've never worked a day in their life, and they don't know anything about it. This is the reason why they have to accuse people of laziness, right? Everything that capitalists accuse other people of, they themselves are most guilty of, right? No one is lazier than a capitalist. Capitalism, by its very definition, encourages capitalists to be lazy. You're forcing other people to do your work for you, right? What's more lazy than that? And then on top of that, you're making them do your work for them and then stealing any surplus value that they have for yourself. So it doesn't get lazier than that. And you know what? It actually does. There is another step to this. A capitalist will hire someone in order to run their business for them, in order to have that person do their work for them. Right? That's what a CEO is. A CEO is just someone that a capitalist hires to run their business for them so they don't have to. So that they can just go golfing or whatever. Like, capitalists, they don't even know where their own businesses are. They've never seen them. They don't know where these factories are. They don't know where any of this manufacturing happens. They don't know any of this stuff, right? And they don't care to know. And because to them it's just a game. It's just a stock market. Put your money in the right investments, right? They're just playing this game. And there's a reason why they have to end up demonizing government so effectively, right? Why they have to spend money, and why they're willing to spend tons of money on propaganda to demonize the government. Because they understand that the government, in one day, could stop the game. They know that that's true. That capitalists have to convince people that money and monetary gain is the only thing worth living for, right? While, of course, the capitalists go off and pursue whatever thing it is that they want to pursue, while getting other people to do all their work for them. They need to convince gullible citizens to believe that working on behalf of capitalists is this true and righteous pursuit, and all other pursuits are fall by the wayside and are of no value, right? If capitalists don't think it's valuable, then it doesn't have value, right? Then it is worthless as far as capitalists are concerned. So they need to desperately convince the populace that the government is the problem. They need to desperately convince the populace that the government can't provide any solutions. When the reality is that the government literally, like, here's something that a government could do, right? Our government could do. Our government could recall its entire currency and redistribute it equally among the populace. It could do that today, right? It would take no time to do, and would it be disruptive? Yeah. Yes, it would be disruptive. I'm not going to argue that it wouldn't be, but the government can do that. When capitalists talk about, oh, the deficit's skyrocketing, the government can print money. Like, your concerns about deficits are not warranted. Like, the government can create and destroy money, right? It's not a business. It doesn't, which is another capitalist lie, right? Capitalists need you to believe that governments are businesses when they explicitly are not. They don't need to balance their budgets. They don't need to rein in deficit spending. Like, all these kind of propagandistic slogans that the sociopath class pays lots of money to convince you is true. None of it is real. All they want is to ensure that you don't realize that they're playing a game and they don't want the game to stop, right? That we could stop their game at any moment. If we got enough people into Parliament, we literally could just stand up and vote and say capitalism is over now. And it would end, and it would be done. And we would begin solving problems using other methods. Like I've said over and over again, and why is it crucial that we stop this game that the sociopaths are playing amongst one another, right? It's absolutely crucial that we stop this game because we need to be transferring our economy into a war economy. I'm going to keep saying this until it manifests. Like I am. I'm going to keep pounding on the pulpit until it manifests into this reality and becomes true. We need to transition our economy into a war economy to fight the crisis of climate change that we have created ourselves and ignore. We need to completely transition all of our resources and energy into fighting climate change. And if we don't do it, we're going to pay a heavy, heavy cost, not only for ourselves, but for our children and then our children's children, without a doubt. I think the evilest thing that I think I've ever heard anybody say about the issue of climate change is, I'll be dead before it matters. Like, go fuck yourself then. Like, let's hurry it up then. Can you get faster at that? Can you die quicker? Right? Because you keep voting against it. You keep voting against going to war on this issue, right? And you keep making the problem much worse. And it's something that I am going to have to deal with, and my children and the next generation is going to have to deal with, right? Like, and all you're doing is condemning us to that out of your selfishness, which is exactly what it is. It's just selfishness. And this inability to actually have empathy for anyone other than yourself. And so we have this rapacious sociopath class that's clinging on to power that we need to pry from their fingers, like completely. I'm no longer to the point where I believe that capitalism can be reformed in like a Roosevelt New Deal sort of way. Like I think that we need to, when we are having conversations about how do we solve problems that exist in our society, at no point can we even begin to consider the capitalist class, because they should cease to exist and be no longer part of the conversation. No one will stand up and say, oh, but you'll chase away investment, because that's such a childish and stupid thing to think. Like, it's such an irrelevant aspect of the conversation that, oh, you'll chase away investment. The government can print $5 trillion today. They can print $5 trillion today and erect any institution they want, and they can do it today, right? And you're worried that some sociopath isn't going to want to take the money that he's clutching to his chest in order to, like, we didn't get to the moon based on private investment, right? We didn't we're not funding our military through private investment. Like, it's childish to think that this is a solution. And it is to that point now where it's delusional and childish, because what's happened is that the sociopaths and their acolytes are so invested in this idea that capitalism, the game of capitalism, is the only way to run the game, that they've completely lost sight of what the purpose of an economic system is, which is to operate for the benefit of the populace. And if the economic system is not operating for the benefit of the populace, then it needs to be eliminated, and it needs to cease to exist. Like what we're going through right now with this COVID-19 second wave, right? Where lots of people are standing up and being like, we need to protect the economy. The economy. We're willing to sacrifice lives. We're willing to let people die for the economy. And then you start talking about like, no, we need to shut this economy down. And then they start complaining about the things that will happen. And I go, all you're doing is pointing out why capitalism fails, right? They themselves will actively point out the failures of capitalism while defending capitalism. And they're not aware that that's what they're doing. This is the level of delusion that we've entered. We've entered this heightened delusional state where because the capitalists are so incapable of imagining any system or anything that exists outside of this rigged game that collapses in on itself, we can't actually talk about how do we solve our problems outside of this insipid, pathetic, completely fragile capitalist structure that is getting knocked over daily. Like, for God's sakes, like, if you're under the age of 30 at this point, like, you can't take this capitalist system seriously anymore. And the people who are defending it, you have to start regarding as children, right? You just have to start baby talking them and just being like, okay, boomer, whatever you say, like, moving on, right? Because it's too late for them. They're so delusional and they've so drank the Kool-Aid. These are the guys that are reading National Post articles and being like, oh, wow, yeah, Trudeau's such a socialist. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what are you actually talking about? Like, these guys are out to lunch. And what we need to be doing, right? So here's what we need to be doing without a doubt. We need to be grabbing hold of the university system, and we need to be funneling it completely, like from top to bottom, to green energy programs. There's without exception. We need to make tuition free, so that every single citizen has the opportunity to go into these academies and universities and colleges and learn about how to reduce greenhouse emissions, research greenhouse emissions. We need to be funneling just resources and resources and resources into resolving and solving this problem. And so tuition absolutely needs to be free. We need to be completely reconfiguring our mass transit system. Like, in my lifetime, these cars are going to stop happening, man. Like, these gas-powered cars, it's just going to stop. It's not going to exist. And if we don't reconfigure everything, and if we don't do it now on a heightened scale, then our entire transit situation is going to completely collapse. We're not going to be able to get anywhere. We're not going to be able to do anything. We're not going to be able to transport goods anywhere, right? Because we've just decided to remain completely reliant on an oil-based system, which is exactly like capitalism, is obviously got to collapse. It has to collapse, like by definition. Like, unless you're absolutely delusional, which many people are, you have to say, yep, this collapses without a doubt. And people who are standing there pretending otherwise, I just can't possibly imagine why you think you should stand up and speak in the first place. It's shocking that there isn't more being done about this issue, and also passing a basic income. Like, these are all ideas that, like, so we should have a public banking system. We should have we should nationalize our communication network. We should nationalize food distribution. We should nationalize, or at the very least, create public options for these things. We should nationalize all of this kind of stuff. Transfer the shares from the capitalists to the workers, thereby eliminating the capitalist class. We should, and these are all just necessary things that must happen in our near future, unless we're totally fine with capitalists enslaving us, which it seems like we are. Like, it just legitimately seems like we're totally fine with the idea of capitalists just enslaving us. And it's shocking to me. Every single day, like, I just wake up and have to shake my head and be like, wow, there's like a fuck ton of gullible rubes around, man. Like, there's just like, you could sell these people anything, right? All you have to be is a sociopath. And every now and then I do get to thinking, like, yeah, what if I just decided to be a complete sociopath and just start causing as much damage to people around me as I can and steal as much money from them as I can? Oh, man. Too bad I have a soul, right? Too bad. Too bad I have a moral conscience and I was raised right. Anyway, I think that's the end of me on this one, guys. We have to transition our economy to a war economy. We have to take this crisis seriously. And the liberals are not going to do it, right? The liberals announced a climate emergency and then went, yeah, it's a climate emergency. We announced it. It's climate emergency. Okay, see you guys later. And then they did literally nothing. Like, literally nothing. So we need to start taking this issue seriously. We need to reconfigure our entire economy, and we need to dump the capitalists out the back door of history and put them in the same category as the slavers. Just buy slavers, you're done. Move on. Progressive society, please. Let's get rid of this wage slavery. Let's get rid of all of this nonsense. Let's actually structure our society for the benefit of the people. Oh my god. Okay, this is the end of me for real. Like, share, subscribe if you made it this far. Like, share, subscribe. I don't know, go have a smoke. Do what you need to get some giggles in these days. 2020, shit year. Alright, good luck, guys.